Well, shalom, shalom, everybody. Y'all been here at the Pison Mounds in the Mississippi Delta, which is in Pison, Tennessee, just east of Memphis, probably an hour and a half east of the Mississippi. Pretty close, right off the Interstate 40. You can see I just came through the doors here on the backside. This is not a real mound right there. That's actually the museum. And if you look at the museum top right there, you can see the very top. Let me put my staff down here, my limit here. But if you look right here at the very top, that's concrete. And so then they brought in all this extra dirt. They brought in all this extra dirt and built it around the museum. But looking directly behind me here is the main mound, and you can see that at the very top of it, right there, is a decking area that you can exit up to on the back side of it, and that's what we're going to be doing today. But here at the Twain Mounds in the Mississippi Delta, I'm going to show there's three, four different teachings and tellings about the Twain Mounds in the Mississippi Delta. And I'm going to turn my camera around and show you the pictures and read it to you, so that everybody that's never visited here have an idea. And so I'm trying to do some real good exclusive teachings to even post here on my YouTube channel of Y'all Been, and in my Facebook group, and then soon I'll be putting things on my webpage that I'm building. But these mounds, what do we know about these mounds is they are astrology, if you want to call it that. Some people do, but what this is using the sun and moon and stars, and everybody that understands the zodiac calendar, or the calendar of Yahuwah, period, even in the Bereshit Genesis, and he talks about he appointed the stars. It's never mentioned in the Torah in the creation days of the moon, but the sun being the closest star to us, that he appointed to the stars. And this is what all this is set up on. When we're using astrogeography or astronomy, when we learn about that's Yahuwah's timepiece, it's called the Matzra. It's the word constellations. This isn't anything new. This isn't anything mysterious. I want to make it very clear that from the time of Babylon, before Babylon, mankind was already spread out across the world. Okay? And these timepieces are set up everywhere. They're all over the United States. They're all over South America. They're all over the ancient East. They're set up, let's see, Stonehenge. Just think about Stonehenge and some of the other places, just to give you a easy understanding. But these are set up on the equinoxes and solstices. And people are afraid to even understand what they think it's sun worship, and it's not. It's sun observation. And so people assume things, and what we don't realize most of the time is that the equinoxes and solstices divide the 4 seasons of the year. And so these are for agricultural purposes. And that's what all these mounds lining up with the equinoxes and solstices, and even some sites line up the moon at certain times of the years, not year, but years. Because the moon doesn't keep a perfect 7-day cycle. It's 10 days short in a year. It runs on a 354-day cycle instead of a 364. It's 10 days short. The book of Jubilees the book of Enoch, Enoch. It tells all of this. And so does even there's a lot of other teachings and books of the Apocryphas that teach about this, that people are afraid to use. So let's look at this and read this for just a moment. Okay, so here's a map. This is the Gulf of Mexico here. And you can see Mississippi River running up and other rivers. The Mississippi's here and it's going up. It goes all the way up into Ohio. These are rivers. These rivers and tributaries are for canoeing and boats. There's some ancient writings that talk about Solomon coming to the United States. Okay. Columbus wasn't the first person here. There's a bunch of mining and ores and metals and copper and gold and all kinds of things that's been discovered through America. And this here reads, it says, the Pison Mounds seems to have served as a type of pilgrimage site with people traveling great distances to participate in ceremonies. Archaeologists have recovered portions of ceramic vessels at Pison that were made and decorated in the styles that are not local to West Tennessee, and these appear to have been made under influences of imitating the great distances, and some are a style of typical of Marksville in the lower left of the map to the far left. And I'm going to get a little close-up of this here, and that's the Myers map in Pison in 1916 of the city of Cisco. It's called Pison, Madison County, Tennessee. And this here lays out along the river area. The Mounds Osier, the Cochrane site, Mound 31 and Mound 6, the Twain Mounds. We got the Visitor Center Museum. That's where I'm at right now. This is the what they call the duck head, the duck mound. It is in a square. If you look, it's squared. Let me get a close up here. It's squared. Just like the pyramids and everything else, they have a triangular, a quad, a square rectangle shape. And this one here lines up perfectly with the four the four markers of north, south, east, and west. And these people are fascinated with this. And it says a middle woodland scene that illustrates typical lifeways of the Pison Mounds period. Roundhouses styles were used at the time, while the later Mississippian tradition had shifted to rectangular house plans. A small conical mound is being built in the field in the distance. And what all this is saying and what all this really means is, in the ancient Yasriel Brit people, we were tent-dwelling people. I've been doing a lot of research, and I've been doing a lot of studies, and I've been doing a lot of archaeology, going to a lot of archaeological sites of I can't even say it, of the cosmos, basically, of how these places line up with the sun, the moon, and the stars. And we are tent-dwelling people. So when we think of indigenous people here in the United States, we don't understand it, everything, because we don't try to live that way anymore. But all of our scriptures talk about that. It says here that approximately 2,000 years ago, this is the time of Yahusha Mashiach over in Yasharel, Jerusalem time. Approximately 2,000 years ago, Native Americans across most of the eastern part of the continent developed a complex ceremonial system during a period that archaeologists refer to as the Middle Woodland. Mound building had been practiced by earlier groups, but this tradition brought on a dramatic increase in the construction of a large complex earthworks. Elaborate funeral rituals, geometric earthworks, and trade in exotic materials obtained from distant locations are hallmarks to the Middle Woodland tradition. exotic materials like marine shells from the oceans, and high-quality chert for making stone tools were transported across the eastern portion of the continent through extensive trade networks. These trade networks also served as paths by which social and religious ideas were exchanged. Here's a map of the United States, of the eastern, central eastern. And it says the interaction spheres, the more broad Hopewell phenomena extended far beyond an Ohio core area, has been termed an interaction sphere, an area of exchange influences that offers an increased opportunity for interaction between otherwise diverse groups. Such interaction spheres allow increased progress toward the development of civilizations, and areas such as this can be seen as having an umbrella influence or artistic language that allows broad-ranging contacts to have a context when dealing with far neighbors who have access to materials or substances, items that are otherwise not available. It's called the Ohio Hopewell, a bird figure. The Ohio Hopewell art, ritual, and built environment has commodities, which is found in Pison, and Pison also has strong relationships to south and southeast. Here's the Pison Mound sites map again. Follow interpretive sign locations with the indication on each sign map as seen above. It's a very beautiful laid out. Over the years, I just watched a video on this inside for it was about a 20-minute video. And that mound right there stood at 80 feet tall. But over the years and all the weathering and everything, that mound now is at 72 feet. The Pison's Mound in the south, it says, related to middle woodland, mound centers are located in northern Mississippi, eastern Arkansas. By the way, when I first started this journey and this trip, I went to the Toltec Mounds, which are in Scott, Arkansas, and seen some of the same exact things and the layouts. And so during this journey and this trip, I'm learning quite extensively a lot of things. And one thing that I do know is they all, on astronomy, all lay out to be the same exact thing. Western Kentucky and along the Tennessee River. Although impressive, none of these centers rival Pison Mounds in the size, about 400 acres in complexity. Saul's Mound, located near at the center of the Pison complex, is among the largest earthworks in the United States. Smaller mound groups are located at a short distance from Pison, upstream and downstream along the Fort Deer River, and these were probably associated with the Pison complex. Here's some artwork and a shell. It says, left is the Savannah Mound site. It no longer exists, and it may have some affinities with Pison Mounds. It was likely close to the date and had a large central mound with smaller mounds arrayed to two sides. And these sides were, however, to the north and south rather than to the east and west. The site was at the present location of Savannah, Tennessee, near the Tennessee River Bridge. And this was based on Thrutson's 1890 mapping of the Savannah Mound group. Pison's largest mound, Saul's, is now covered with trees, but once we have looked like this illustration, it is very large platform mound located in the center of the site. The view is what they call hypothetical and designed to give an impression of Pison Mounds and used as the central ceremonial place in a border, settlement, and landscape. And what we need to realize and understand is these were all set up on the equinoxes and solstices for agricultural provisions. If we don't learn how to plow and went to plant seed, then it's our mistake that our crop didn't come for the winters and we don't survive. And neither does our animals, our domesticated animals that we use for building our tents, because we're tent dwellers. The hide of the animals were used for making the tents. We're not going to survive through the winter. If we don't do enough grain as our population increases and our animals increase to keep them fed through the winter as being domesticated, then they will also die. And if we plant a crop too late, then that's our fault. But if we plant a crop too early, the frost will kill the plant. And we always worry about droughts, okay? Drought is a natural thing that can destroy crops, okay? We all know that. So these places were built along river areas so that we could at least, as people, bring our own water from the waterways, the tributaries of the water, bring them water to keep our plants watered if there was a drought. Now, that's not being real smart, as in like you don't take a rocket scientist to figure these things out. Today we have water hoses and sprinkler systems, and we'll go turn the water home and we'll go set a sprinkler up and it'll spray part of the garden, and then we'll move the sprinkler over a little bit and let it water the other part of the garden. That's how we do it today. And a lot of times I grew up on a farm and I grew up with a garden, and I would have to go move that sprinkler system from one part of the garden area to another. And it was like, I don't want to do that, it's work, but I had to. How would you like to go to the river that's about a quarter to half a mile, maybe a mile away, and tote the water to water each plant? Something to think about there. It says the immediate environment of Pison Mounds includes 2 additional mound sites. The Elijah Bray site, and it consists of a small group of conical burial mounds of a similar date range to Pison Mounds, and this site lies approximately 6 miles to the east of Pison. The Johnson site is more like Pison, and it's platform mounds of ceremonial nature, but it is a much smaller site. The site lies approximately 6 miles to the west of Pison Mounds. The platform mound here says the platform mounds have a flat surface at the summit and were not used as burial mounds, and it is assumed that important ceremonial events took place on the summits of these platforms, but archaeologists have not been able to determine the exact nature of these ceremonies. Unlike platform mounds in the later Mississippian period, buildings were not constructed on summits of platforms at Pison. A conical mound. A conical mound generally served as a burial mound, and as the name suggests, are somewhat cone-shaped graves were often excavated in the original ground surface at the mound built over the grave. An unknown number of additional small conical burial mounds may have once existed as part of Pison Mounds. Here's the Johnson site, and here's the Bray site. The Johnson Mound site will be over here. This is the river coming through it I was just talking about. This is the Pison Mounds, and this is the Bray Mounds. And as you can see, the distance is pretty close to the river as they located them for the water being for agriculture. So learning what some of this stuff is very, very important today. And the reason I believe that it's so hard for people to understand some of this, I'm going to walk this trail. For anybody that's never been here, they got very easy, accessible trails. The blacktopped, as you can see, go all the way around. The parking lot's on the other side of this. I brought my new little compass that I brought, and it's gonna, as you can see, this lines up perfectly north and south, and they built this mound, here. Get this thing turn around real quick. But they built this mound, and the museum perfectly north and south of the Saul's Mound. So looking at some of these things today as I'm doing some research and work, but we're going to take a walk. I'm going to go ahead and finish videoing at least to the mound here so that everybody that is interested in coming and seeing this, you'll see that it's a very easy climb. It's got steps leading up that they built to the top of the Saul's Mound there. I'm probably within a few hundred feet from the entrance at the museum, where the parking lot was in front of it. Beautiful place today. Sun's starting to shine just a little bit and come out, and not really cold. It was cold yesterday. Today's date, I don't know, is, let me see what date I'm in. Today is February the 10th in the Gregorian calendar. So I won't be here for the equinox. I will actually be in Fort Lee, Missouri, setting up our Millery sundial using the Conical calendar to find the equinox the first day of the year. And our original Hebraic calendar that Scripture Moshe used, Joseph used, Enoch used, and serving the appointed times. And we have to remember the appointed times is set up for agricultural provisions, because at each appointed season of the week, say Pesach, Passover, Sukkot, it was all about agriculture, and that's what we did. We give the wine offerings, we get the grain offerings, and they're all provisions from Yahuwah. So as we walk along here, they do here at this site, just like they do at the Twain Mounds, have archaeologists and teachings and things, and they'll bring people out during the equinoxes and solstices. And this site is actually set up on some of the moon stuff. So those of y'all that are following some of the things in the years of the moon, because the moon doesn't do the same cycle every year, you can come out and observe the sun, stars, and the moon with some of the teachings that go along this. And that's what these bleachers here are set up for. Some of the observations. There's another mound right through there. There's mounds. I forgot how many mounds. I'll look at my map when I get up here. But there's several mounds, new mounds that they found that were hard to really locate, because over the years trees have grown on them, and the weathering of the, let me say it like this. When I was over in Utah in the west, there's not a lot of rain there. And so a lot of the structures are all petrified because they're dry. And when you get over here in the eastern part of the United States, we get a lot of rain. We get lots of rain. And the weathering from the rain causes erosion, and a lot of things deteriorate, especially wood and stuff. And that's why they haven't found any wood canoes here, because old wood canoes deteriorate. But if you go west, everything's petrified. It turns into rock. Take a log and a tree, stick it out there in the desert where it doesn't get much moisture, even though it gets a lot of wind, then it petrifies. It turns into stone. And so here's the trail that leads in the decking, the steps, the handrails that leads up the backside of this mound. And as you can see, mounds 12 through 25 are to the right of me. The boardwalk's to the left. The earthworks is to the left. So this is about Saul's Mound. And Saul's Mound is a 72-foot tall, and it's the largest middle woodland mound in the United States. It is the largest. Saul's Mound got its name from a previous owner of the site and is easily the most visually impressive earthwork at Pison Mounds. The mound was built in a series of construction stages beginning about 2,000 years ago by dumping and compacting basket load after basket load of soil. The base of the mound is rectangular, with each corner aligned with a cardinal direction, and it may be difficult to imagine the tremendous effort and thousands of persons, hours, and labor that were required to construct this earthwork. Saul's Mound is aligned with the Mound 28. Right here is Saul's Mound where I'm at on the backside, and here's Mound 28, and it aligns perfectly. In the Mound 28 in the northeastern corner of the complex, along with the line of the summer solstice sunrise. And the greatest height of Saul's Mound may have been achieved by workers whose dedication came from strong belief. Here's another picture of Saul's Mound. It's an older picture of Saul's Mound, and when it had trees on it, they cut them all down. They was doing some, I talked to some people inside the museum, and they did some archaeology work here and started opening up the Saul's Mound. And they had to stop because of the Tennessee laws, because this Saul's Mound is actually one of the burial grounds. So Saul's Mound right here, it says its height is 72 feet. It's about 370 feet by 350 feet, constructed between 1 and 300 AD. So 2,000 years ago to 300 AD, give or take, we're looking at about 1,500, 1,700 years ago to 2,000. The culture is Middle Woodland. Saul's Mound is the central mound of the Pison complex, and this ceremonial mound is 72 foot tall and has 4 corners that point to the cardinal directions north, south, east, and west. One of the hypotheses suggests that the top of this mound was the observation point for observing the summer solstice and equinox sunrises. We hope that you too will be intrigued by the wonder of this special monument as you climb to the top. Please use the stairs to prevent erosion. So in other words, don't climb the mound itself. They're trying to preserve it. So they did build these flights of steps and handrails. Very nice. The wood's really good. This is real safe. I don't know. I doubt that they counted the steps in order of any significance of numerical values to anything. I think they just built the steps. Some places I may visit and go, and like Chicapú down in South America or Mexico, the Aztec Indians had 360 steps or 364 steps for each day of the calendar year in a solar calendar. And then it repeats a new cycle. Remember, the sun sets the year, not the moon. The sun can't set the year, the moon can't set the year because it falls out 10 days too short. And it does not come out in perfect sevens. Only the sun. You get about 3/4 of the way up here. 1/4 of the way you get a step to sit down at. Here you get a step to sit down at. So if you get tired, you can sit down. But beautiful sight, beautiful laid out. Kind of makes me wonder what I wished I'd lived back then for a moment and was part of this. So here I am coming to the summit of the steps here on the mound, at the top of the mound, looking out across everything. Very, very beautiful. Now, keep in mind, folks, that I'm looking perfect north. And I'm looking perfect south, perfect east, and perfect west. I'm going to be doing some observations on Google Earth and some other things, lining up a perfect line from the equinoxes and the solstices, especially the solstices across the United States and other parts of the world, and see if I can find some coordinating places that are in line with this place during those equinoxes and solstices. I got a lot more research to do, but very beautiful, very, very beautiful. So if you can look kind of what it would look like if I was standing up here. See, there's a coordinated plate right there that this thing lays out and looks like a perfect square, rectangle square. Man, I'll find more information out about all this. And so, but shalom, shalom, everybody. Beautiful place. Barak Yahuwah for bringing me here. Let me witness and see this for myself. There's other mounds out through there. This is, if you look out through here, there's mounds that line up out there. Yep. Mound 28 lines out perfectly. It would line up that direction, right out there. And that's what I'm fixing to go to next. Let's go look at his mound number 28 and see the alignment. I wish from here, man, I wish from here that I could see the top of that. Since I did bring my compass and all. I wished I could see the alignment of it. Straight across the center of the top. But it's not visible. Too many trees built up on it now. But shalom, shalom, everybody. Barak Yahuwah. And have a Barak day.